what you need is one recipe of brownies that will bake in a 9x13 pan. You can use your own homemade recipe. You can use a box mix, which is what I have done. You can use whatever kind of brownie mix you like. Just make your favorite brownie mix the way you like it. I like the cake-like style, which means you add an extra egg to it, and this bakes up super nice. So I'm just gonna set this off to the side for right now, and we're gonna work on the cheesecake part. I have a brick of cream cheese that I've softened at room temperature, a tablespoon of vanilla extract, 1 egg, and 1 can of sweetened condensed milk goes in. Now what we're gonna do is we're just going to take our hand mixer and we're going to waz this up into a nice, smooth, creamy mixture. All right, our mixture is nicely blended, and you wanna make sure it's as smooth as can be, but if you still have a couple of little flecks of cream cheese floating around in there, don't worry about it too much, because it'll all work out in the end. You really can't mess these up, okay? So then we're gonna take our mixture and we're just going to pour it over top of the brownie mix. And that is as hard as it gets. So now we're gonna pop these in a 350-degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes until they are set. The top is lightly golden browned and puffy. Then you'll know that it's finished and it's no longer jiggly even in the center. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven and I'll bring you back when these are ready to eat. There you have it, our cheesecake brownies baked for about 30 minutes, and then you have to let them cool completely before you slice them. Otherwise the cheesecake part is just gonna be, it's not going to be completely cooperative for you, and it can tend to come off if you don't cool it all the way first. I let them cool just to room temperature and then I cut them. These cut like a dream. They're absolutely delicious. They're super simple. They take very few ingredients, and I know you're gonna love them. If you love chocolate, if you love cheesecake, if you love brownies, you're gonna love these. And really, it's just a handful of ingredients and you're good to go. Your kids are gonna love them, and so is everyone else in your family. We're going to be making a delicious summer cake. It's going to be a lemon berry buttermilk loaf, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. Super simple. You can also make this in a muffin tin if you want to make muffins out of this instead. Today I'm going to be making it in a standard 9x4 loaf pan, and it goes together super fast, and this is what goes into it. 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 3 eggs, 1 stick or half a cup of butter melted, 1 cup of buttermilk or a substitute. We're also going to be using the juice and the zest of 1 lemon, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. We're going to be putting in some vanilla or vanilla bean paste, which is what I have here, about a teaspoon or 2, whatever is your preference. And today I'm going to be using a cup of blueberries and a cup of fresh raspberries. You can use frozen mixed berries, you can use strawberries, you can use all one type of berry. It's entirely up to you. That's what makes this recipe so versatile. First thing we're going to do is mix together our wet ingredients. So in goes my eggs. I'm going to give these a bit of a whisk. Add our buttermilk. And this is a whole cultured buttermilk. Our lemon juice, our melted butter, our lemon zest goes in, and our vanilla. If you're using vanilla extract, that's great. I have some vanilla bean paste here. We're going to use that, about 2 teaspoons. You can use whatever you like. If you want to hit this with a little lemon extract, that would be lovely as well. Okay, set this aside. Now we're going to blend together our dry ingredients. In goes our flour, our sugar, baking powder, and salt. Give this a stir. And then we're going to toss our berries into the dry mixture first. This will help them to more easily distribute into the batter and not sink to the bottom. Now we're just going to add the wet to the dry. And kind of go easy, because you don't really want to break those berries too much. But you also don't want to see any dry parts when you're done incorporating all of the ingredients together. You want to make sure everything gets invited to the party. I'm going to go grab my loaf pan. My loaf pan has been sprayed and then lined with a parchment paper, and the parchment paper has been sprayed as well. I promise you'll thank me if you do this as well, because it'll make getting your cake out of the loaf pan so much easier, and you will not risk breaking it. We're gonna bake this at 350 degrees for 45 to 50 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean and free of any wet batter. So once this is baked, I'll bring you back and I'll show you what it looks like. There you have it. There is our lemon berry buttermilk loaf out of the oven. It's had time to cool so that I could properly slice it without it falling apart. And I'm telling you, putting that extra little piece of parchment paper in the loaf pan is exactly what you need to safely get it out of the pan without breaking it, because this is a pretty tender loaf cake and it's going to be just perfect for all your summer function. We're gonna make up this jelly roll today because personally I think it's the perfect dessert for summer. It's super easy to make. It literally takes 7 minutes in the oven, which I have preheating at 400 degrees. So you're gonna use 1 cup of cake flour, 1 cup of sugar, 4 eggs at room temperature, and we're gonna use a teaspoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're gonna go ahead and start beating these on high until they're a little bit fluffy. Now you see how creamy they look and how foamy they look. We're gonna toss in our baking powder and our salt. Now you see, one of the big reasons we want room temperature eggs is because we want the volume. If your eggs are cold, you're not going to get this volume. Now, do you also see that the eggs have changed color a little bit? They've gotten a little more pale. This is when you want to turn your beaters on high and start gradually adding your sugar until you get a nice, thick, creamy mixture that's going to be approximately double in volume. We're going to add in our vanilla extract and just give that a stir. And then we're going to put our flour in here and we're going to fold it in with our spatula. Okay, we've got all of our flour incorporated. It's really important when you do this that you scrape down from the bottom and fold up, and then I come into the middle, and then I scrape around the side of the bowl into the center. You want to do this slowly but surely because, like I said, you want to keep a lot of the air that you've beaten in there. So now what we're going to do is grab a pan, and this is as close to a jelly roll pan that I have. It's approximately 12 by 15. Typically a jelly roll pan is 10 by 13, around that, but whatever you have on hand is probably going to be fine. If you have like a rimmed cookie sheet, that will work, just not a half sheet pan, that's too big. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to scrape our batter onto our baking sheet. The offset spatula is going to work very well to help you manipulate the batter into all 4 corners of your pan. Okay, I've got my batter evenly distributed in my jelly roll pan for all intents and purposes. We're gonna pop this in a 400-degree oven for 7 minutes, or until when you stick it with a toothpick, or it comes out clean, or when you press it with your finger, it springs back evenly. So we'll be back when this comes out of the oven and I'll show you what it looks like and what happens next. Okay, our sponge cake is done and it was baked for 7 minutes. It's perfect, golden brown, and around the edges it's nice and done. So what I did was I took this spatula and then I just gently went around all the edges like so, and then I like to take my fish slice or a big spatula that's skinny, and then I just like to go this all the way around the cake. Don't lift it up too much because you might crack it or break the cake. You just want to make sure. Now, remember, I sprayed the pan, I put parchment, and then I sprayed the parchment. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this rack away. And then I'm going to do that. I have a couple of pieces of parchment that I liberally dusted with powdered sugar. And then I want to take this parchment off that was in the bottom of the pan. Very carefully, because you can tear your cake if you don't do it just so. When I say these cakes can be finicky, I'm not joking.
Fragile.
You would, yes, fragile is right. You would think that a sponge cake wouldn't be as fragile, because just looking at it, it looks pretty sturdy, but it's pretty fragile. So what you're going to do now is you're going to roll this up gently. And I had someone comment on the picture I put it on, on the picture I put it on Instagram, that it wasn't cracked. And no, it wasn't cracked. And this is how you get no cracks. First of all, you make sure that you measure your ingredients precisely. Then you make sure that you take it out of the pan almost immediately after taking it out of the oven. And then you roll it up very quickly. And then I'm going to put this on the rack and let it cool. It only takes about a half an hour for this to cool all the way. Now, full disclosure, I made another one before I made this one, and it cracked when I was taking it out of the pan. So it's setting aside cooling, and I'm going to fill that with something else, but I'm just not going to waste it because it's perfectly good cake. So we're going to let this cool, and we'll come back when it's time to fill this with some raspberry jam. All right, we're ready to fill our cake roll, and it seems, remember how I told you I made a second one? Well, I filled the second one with Nutella before I turned the camera on. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill this with some raspberry jam, because I made a bonehead mistake. And I have about a cup of this is a natural style raspberry jam. And it doesn't have any like high fructose corn syrup in it or anything like that. This cake roll does have a crack in it, but you know what? Life is full of cracks, and that's okay. We're just gonna slap some jam on it and make it look pretty. And it's gonna taste good, and nobody is gonna care about the crack. So now we're gonna roll it up, cracks and all, and just take your paper and let it help you to roll it up. And there's our crack. And our crack is going to be encapsulated on the inside of the roll. So you want your seam side down, and so when I get to the end, I like to just give it a little bit of a press. And there you go, see? No cracks on the top, just powdered sugar. It looks really pretty. So now what we're gonna do before we plate is I'm gonna cut these ugly ends off. And that's what you want a jelly roll to look like, just like that. Perfect. We'll cut this ugly end off. And you know, I'm pretty sure that you won't have a problem finding someone to consume those. And I will tell you, I pitched a fit when I realized that I had done that and I had filled the wrong cake roll with the wrong stuff, because I really wanted it to look good on camera. But you know what? This is real life, and God was apparently teaching me a lesson. So it's okay, and it all turned out fine in the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and plate these, and I'll be right back and I'll show you what they look like. There you have it, delicious raspberry filled jelly roll. Of course, this is the one that I wanted to be super pretty because it has the jelly in it. But this one, and I'll show you, this is the one I accidentally filled that I wanted to put the jelly in. It has the Nutella in it. No cracks, no breakage. It's positively beautiful, and I know that you will be successful. Just be sure that you don't overbake it even by 1 minute. I'm sure that this is the problem on the jelly filled one because I forgot to set a timer, and then I did a lot of guesswork before taking it out of the oven. So honestly, 7 minutes is exactly how long you want to bake this. Then you want to make sure that you get it out of the pan immediately and roll it up in the parchment, or you can also roll it up in a clean lint-free flour sack towel or in a clean pillowcase. I love using pillowcases for roll cakes because they're a little bit larger and they are completely lint-free, especially if you're using an old-fashioned percale style pillowcase. And that means that there's more polyester in it than cotton. So that's just what my recommendations are, and that's how they look. But like I said, you know what? In the end, they're all gonna taste delicious. All these need maybe is a little bit of whipped cream on top, and they're gonna be awesome.